Rome is gone. It has been sacked and conquered by the Germans in 476, which marks the end of an era in human history. However, Rome isn't completely gone, as a sizable chunk has remained to the east, centered in the city of Constantinople. The Eastern Romans would try to carry on Roman traditions for the next 1,000 years, though their half of Rome was much more Greek than it was Latin. No matter, the Byzantines would, for the rest of their existence, cling on to the idea of reclaiming the lost half of the empire. And under one man, that dream would briefly come true. So, how did this happen? Emperor Anastasius died in 518, and during his 87 years of life, he had exactly 0 male children. Before he died, he had to choose a successor from one of his 3 nephews. According to one story that I personally like and is my headcanon, Anastasius summoned his nephews to his chambers and offered them to sit on one of 3 couches. Under one he left a note, and whoever sat on that couch he would name his heir. However, nobody sat on that couch, so he left his succession to destiny and decided to name the next person to enter the room his heir. That person was Justin, a low-born and illiterate man who managed to climb up the ranks and become the commander of the Emperor's Guard. Justin was 68 years old when he assumed power, which meant that he was only 10 years younger than Joe Biden when he was elected. Well, Justin was aware of his low birth and his lack of knowledge of statecraft, so he had his nephew and adoptive son, Petrus Sabatius, educated and named him his co-ruler later on. For a while, Sabatius, also known as Justinian, would be the real power behind his uncle's throne. Justinian around that time would meet an actress and prostitute called Theodora, with whom he fell madly in love. The law, however, forbade nobles from marrying lowborns. So, Justin used his influence over his uncle to have this rule removed, and he married the quick-witted and intelligent Theodora. The 9 years of Justin's reign were peaceful and prosperous, but the tensions between Byzantium and Persia began to rise once again near the end. Due to him not having any biological children, he adopted Justinian and named him heir to the empire. And when Justin died in 527, Justinian would come to wear the purple. This charming young man dreamed big, and the wettest of those dreams was retaking Rome from the barbarians and uniting the lands of Caesar. However, the first years of his reign were actually very troubled. No matter how good of a ruler you are, you can't fully put under control a mob. And in this world, there isn't a more lawless and savage mob than sports fans. Chariot racing was very popular in Constantinople at the time, but at one point the fans of the sport got annoyed with the emperor after a few of their leaders were executed. So, this mob started demanding things from Justinian and even called for his replacement. 30,000 of them gathered in the chariot racing arena and proclaimed a new emperor there. Justinian and his court wanted to flee because, 30,000 people rebelled and put the city to the torch. At that point, Theodora spoke out to her husband, and it was one of the rare instances when a woman said something smart. She basically said that Justinian was the emperor and that he should grow a pair of balls. That he did, and sent his army to the Hippodrome and had all 30,000 rebels slaughtered. Based. Before Emperor Justinian could make his dream of conquering Rome true, he had to bring order back to the empire. Since the mob almost completely destroyed the capital, Justinian had to start by rebuilding it. And rebuild it he did. Over the following years the city came to shine brighter than ever before, and the skyline came to be dominated by the magnificent Church of the Holy Wisdom, aka Hagia Sophia. Justinian then employed a whole bunch of smart people to help him reform the laws. In that task, the most helpful was a guy called Tribonian, who wrote the most of and revised the Codex Juris Civilis, the Justinian's Codex. The emperor also reworked taxation, since it was previously bust and inefficient. Now, with cash flowing into the treasury once again and the realm being put in order, Justinian was free to make his dreams a reality. First, he sent his friend and big bold general Belisarius to subdue the Vandals, a Germanic tribe who had come to rule North Africa. Since the population of Africa didn't really like the Vandals, when Belisarius came to them, they would surrender their cities and join him. The army of Vandal king was numerically superior, but Belisarius didn't care for that, defeated them on multiple occasions, conquered the entirety of Carthage, and brought North Africa back into fold for Justinian. When he returned home, he was awarded with a triumph, but was immediately sent packing once again, and this time to Italy. Taking Sicily was a piece of cake for big balls Belisarius, but when he stepped foot onto the mainland, things got slightly harder. However, he conquered southern Italy slowly but surely and reached Rome. Since Rome was defended very well, and the army Belisarius brought to Italy had significantly thinned out, they were quickly running out of supplies, he found a way to sneak into Rome using the aqueducts. So, in the year of our Lord 538, Rome was once again held by Romans. Justinian, of course, was very happy, so he sent some reinforcements to Belisarius, led by a guy called Narses. Well, it turned out that the two generals didn't really like each other, and the unified command quickly broke down. Due to infighting between them, the campaign ran slower than before, and the Romans even lost a couple of cities. Belisarius wrote to his emperor and begged for the dumbass Narses to be sent home, and Justinian did just that. Unfortunately for the Romans, the Ostrogoths set an envoy to Persia, and Khosrow I, the current king who was a passionate enjoyer of cracking the Byzantines, gladly joined the war. Now, Justinian started panicking, since most of the army was all the way back in Italy. He called Belisarius to come home and abandon the campaign, but humongous nuts Belisarius said no, and went on to continue his conquest. Justinian was reasonably pissed, but had to make do with shitty generals that he had at home. Belisarius, meanwhile, had only one city left to take, and that was the Ostrogothic capital of Ravenna. The Ostrogoth king offered to surrender if Belisarius would claim the Western Roman Empire for himself and cut all ties with Justinian. So Belisarius did, but only until the city surrendered. Then he reaffirmed his loyalty to the emperor and, with his campaign over, he went back to Constantinople. Now, Justinian was still pissy that Belisarius refused his orders, but since he was his best general, he did nothing to him. Giant testicles Belisarius stabilized the front and stopped the Persian advance. However, around that time people started getting itchy and vomiting blood. If someone is vomiting blood and having huge black rashes on his body, that means that he has the plague and should be interacted with as much as possible. Friendly as they were, the Greeks spent a lot of time with plague victims and spread the plague all around. The treacherous plague abused the Greek friendliness and killed a fifth of Constantinople's population and an unknown amount of people all around the empire. Because of the plague, Byzantines and Persians concluded a peace in order to, not all die. Khosrow was just fine, as he squeezed every single golden coin he could from the Romans, while Justinian wasn't nearly as lucky, since he got the plague. With Justinian a vegetable, and many courtiers plotting against him, Theodora took all the power into her own hands and tried to keep the empire together, which she actually managed. Suddenly, in 542, vegetable Justinian just woke up one day and continued ruling, business as usual. The plague lasted for 7 more years and had completely ravaged the empire. Taxation was bust once again, there was little to no soldiers, the capital was ravaged, and the Ostrogoths reconquered Italy. Belisarius went nuts after his many years of campaigning in Italy were undone so quickly, and he was sent to do it all over again, only with fewer soldiers this time. Despite him being a great general, he wasn't a wizard, and not long after he gave up and retired. In 548, Theodora died and Justinian fell into a depressive state, but continued ruling efficiently and managed to get the economy back on track. He paid the Persians and the Avars annually to stop raiding his lands, and in 551 he sent the now 70-year-old general Narses, who we met before, to retake Italy once and for all. The Ostrogoths were defeated in battle. Rome and Ravenna were retaken by 552, and an attempted invasion by the Franks in 553 was repelled. Justinian would continue to rule for 12 more years, collecting heavy taxes but having an eternally empty treasury. He tried to heal a schism between Orthodox and Monophysite Christians, but that was one of his few failings. His reign was, generally, a period of rebirth for Byzantine art, architecture and literature, and was the last time the Romans would actually hold Rome. He died in 565 at the age of 83. Despite how much him and his wife loved each other, they never had any children, so he had to choose his nephew Justin as his successor. Justin II assumed power in 565, but his rule was heavily undermined by his wife Sophia, Theodora's niece by the way. He inherited Justinian's empty treasury and decided that paying off the Persians and Avars just wasn't sufficient anymore. Well, said Avars and Persians started raiding once again, and Khosrow invaded. When Khosrow conquered Syria and some other Byzantine lands, Justin went nuts, like frothing at the mouth kind of insane, and was no longer capable to rule. Meanwhile, Lombards invaded northern Italy, and the Pope got practically independent in Rome. Sophia managed to convince Justin to name his adopted son Tiberius co-ruler, and abdicate in his favor. That he did, and in 578 Tiberius came to be emperor. Tiberius II came to power in 578, and didn't really stick around for long. His reign was just war. He had to fight the Persians, the Avars, the Slavs, the Lombards, and he would be somewhat successful in that, but he literally drained the treasury that Justin II somehow managed to refill. He had to start paying the Avars once again. The Slavs started migrating to the Balkans and the Lombards took even more of Italy. However, the war with Persia was a success, with Khosrow I having died in 579. In said war, one general called Maurice proved himself very capable, and the dying emperor Tiberius, who probably ate some poisoned food, married him to his daughter and named him Heir. What plagued Maurice's entire reign was the lack of funds Tiberius left behind when he died in 582. He had to cut soldiers' pays, and that would be his ultimate downfall. However, at the start of his reign he actually did quite well. With the East pacified, in 591 he turned to the Balkans, and fought the Avars and Slavs very successfully. However, he just couldn't pay his soldiers enough, and they mutinied on multiple occasions. The biggest mutiny was led by a general called Phocas, who marched down to Constantinople, captured Maurice, and killed all but one of his sons, and then Maurice at the very end. Phocas used to be a mere centurion, but was now the emperor. He had very little support aside from his family, a general called Priscus, and surprisingly the Pope. Well, when you give a common soldier the throne of a major country, you know that it probably won't end well for him. Phocas had no patience for court intrigue, and had every opponent to his absolute rule either executed or exiled. Meanwhile, Avars and Slavs continued pillaging Balkan territories, and the Persians, having proclaimed one of Maurice's alleged sons the legitimate emperor, started a new campaign. Priscus, formerly a loyal general, suddenly turned against him and sent a letter to the governor of Africa, Heraclius the Elder, urging him to revolt. That he did, and Priscus would escape Constantinople and join Heraclius. Egyptian forces defeated Phocas's armies on a few occasions, and Heraclius' son, Heraclius the Younger, took a few ships, sailed to Constantinople, and invaded the city. Phocas was promptly executed, and Heraclius the Younger assumed power as Heraclius I in year 610, starting the Heraclian dynasty. I would like to thank all the people who watched the previous video and gave me their feedback and criticism, especially the guys from Reddit. I appreciate it very much and hope that I improved at least slightly. Of course, thank you all for watching this video as well, and hopefully I'll be seeing you soon. Have a good day.